They didn't just fail to help. They watched, some even hoped you would fail. The instinct is to be noble, to forgive, to pull everyone up once you've built yourself back up. But here's the problem: if you rescue the people who stood by and did nothing, you teach them that their silence had no cost. When you think back to the moments that almost broke you, you'll remember more than the pain. You'll remember the faces. You'll remember the ones who were close enough to see your struggle, close enough to hear the cracks in your voice, close enough to notice that your eyes weren't shining the way they used to. And yet, they said nothing. They did nothing. They chose silence. Silence is not neutral. Silence is not harmless. It's a decision, a deliberate act of non-involvement. It is the moment someone weighs your worth against their comfort and chooses their comfort. When someone sees you drowning and decides not to throw the rope, they've made a statement without words. Your survival is not my concern. And that cuts deeper than any insult or direct attack, because you expected the enemy to be cruel, but you never expected the so-called friend to be absent. This is the part most people don't want to admit. Some of the people you loved the most were not just missing in action. They were witnesses. They had a front row seat to your suffering, and they chose to remain spectators instead of stepping in. Sometimes they told themselves a story about why they didn't act. It's not my place, or they wouldn't want my help, or I'm sure someone else will step in. But the truth is, real loyalty doesn't wait for the perfect opportunity. Real loyalty doesn't need a script or permission. It moves. It risks. It acts. Silence becomes a mask. It lets people pretend they're innocent when they're actually complicit. If someone is close enough to see your battle, and they still choose to watch rather than help, their silence is participation. It's easy for them to claim they didn't know what to do. But in life, doing something is almost always better than doing nothing. A single message, a simple gesture, a word of encouragement. These are not grand, impossible acts. They're human acts. And yet they chose not to offer even that. The danger is that later, when you fought your way back and your wounds have healed, these same people will smile at you as if they were on your side the whole time. They'll congratulate you. They'll want to stand next to you in the light, pretending they were there in the dark. And unless you're paying attention, you'll let history rewrite itself. You'll forget how silent they were when your soul was screaming for help. You cannot afford that kind of forgetfulness. Memory is not about holding grudges, it's about protecting yourself from repetition. If someone could watch you suffer without lifting a hand, they've already revealed the limits of their loyalty. They've already told you what you mean to them when there's nothing in it for them. Believe them. The first time they chose silence, it was their choice. The second time, if you allow it, it's yours. This is where most people fail. They confuse kindness with access. They believe that in order to be good, they must keep the door open to everyone, even those who prove themselves unreliable. But the truth is, protecting yourself requires boundaries. And one of the clearest boundaries you can set is this: if you could watch me break without stepping in, you cannot be near me when I rebuild. There is a misconception that those who stay silent in your suffering simply didn't understand or didn't know how bad it was. But deep down, you know the difference between ignorance and avoidance. Ignorance is not knowing. Avoidance is knowing enough and choosing to stay uninvolved. One is human error, the other is human choice. The second one is what you need to remember. Think about how many times you've gone out of your way for people. How many times you showed up when it was inconvenient. How many times you offered help without being asked. How many times you felt someone's pain and refused to stand by and do nothing. That's who you are. Now compare that to how they responded when the roles were reversed. That contrast will tell you everything. The people who remain silent during your suffering are teaching you something, not about pain, but about perspective. They are showing you who they are when the stakes are real. They are showing you what they will and won't do when you are in need. And that knowledge is not something to ignore. It's something to act on. The truth is, you don't need to punish these people. You don't even need to confront them. What you need to do is decide where they fit in your life going forward. Maybe they no longer get access to your inner world. Maybe they're no longer invited into your plans, your wins, your losses. You don't have to make an announcement. You simply close the doors quietly and keep building without them. The most dangerous thing you can do is rewrite history in their favor because it feels easier than accepting their betrayal. It's tempting to pretend it didn't happen, to smooth over the discomfort, to tell yourself they would have helped if they could. But that's how cycles repeat. That's how the same people get the chance to fail you twice. Life is already full of challenges. You can't afford to surround yourself with people who see you as optional. Remember who was silent. Remember who looked away. Not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. Because the people who stayed quiet while you were in pain will not suddenly find their voice when you face the next storm. And the people who spoke up, who acted, who stood by you even in small ways, those are the ones you build with. Those are the ones who earn a place in your circle. Silence is a choice. And in your darkest moments, it's the loudest answer you'll ever get. Never forget it. Loyalty is a word people love to use when times are good. They'll say they've got your back, they'll stand by you, they'll never let you down. But those words are cheap when the sun is shining. The true test of loyalty is not in the calm, it's in the chaos. Anyone can stand with you in celebration. It's who remains when the storm hits that reveals the truth. When life is smooth, loyalty doesn't cost anything. There's no real risk in being on your side. When you're winning, when you have resources, when you have influence, when you can offer something in return. But when the wind turns against you, when the foundation shakes, when you lose status or stability, that's when the cost of loyalty rises. That's when you find out who's really with you. The storm is more than just hardship. It's a filter. It strips away the people who are there out of convenience and leaves behind the ones who are there out of conviction. The difference is clear. Convenience loyalty disappears when the benefits disappear, but conviction loyalty remains even when there's nothing left to gain. You've probably lived this in your own life. You've seen how quickly the crowd around you can thin out when trouble comes. People you thought would never leave suddenly find reasons to distance themselves. Some do it quietly, without explanation. Others disguise it as giving you space. But in reality, they don't want to be associated with your struggle. Your challenges make them uncomfortable, and rather than sharing the weight, they step away. This is why the storm is so valuable. Not because it's pleasant, but because it's honest. Hardship forces people to make a choice. They can either stand beside you knowing the risks, or they can protect themselves at your expense. And once someone chooses the latter, you don't need to wonder about their loyalty anymore. They've shown you the truth, and you're better off knowing it. Loyalty in the storm doesn't always mean someone can solve your problems. It's not about them fixing everything for you. It's about presence. It's about knowing that even if they can't stop the rain, they'll hold the umbrella with you. They'll share their warmth when the wind cuts through. They'll make sure you don't feel abandoned when the darkness closes in. That presence might not remove the pain, but it changes the way you carry it. People who are loyal in the storm don't ask, "What's in it for me?" They ask, "How can I help?" They don't worry about appearances or whether being associated with you will hurt their image. They understand that relationships built only for sunny days are not relationships at all. They're transactions. You also have to look at this from the other side. Storms test your loyalty to others as well. When someone you care about is going through loss, failure, or public criticism, do you step back to protect yourself, or do you step forward to support them? The way you answer that question determines the kind of loyalty you deserve in return. You cannot demand loyalty you are unwilling to give. The danger of ignoring this truth is that you may fill your life with fair weather people, those who will smile, cheer, and celebrate when things are easy, but vanish the moment difficulty arrives. These people will drain your energy without ever strengthening your foundation. They may look supportive, but they're only attached to the version of you that benefits them. When the storm passes, and it will, you will remember who stayed. You will remember the ones who checked in, even if they didn't know what to say. You will remember the ones who defended you when others spoke against you. You will remember the ones who made sacrifices, big or small, just to make sure you weren't carrying the weight alone. Those are the people who deserve your trust going forward. Loyalty in the storm is rare because it requires courage. It's easy to side with success. It's harder to side with someone the world has turned against. It's easy to enjoy the benefits of a relationship when everything is flowing. It's harder to give when the river runs dry. That's why the people who stay in the storm are priceless, because they've proven that their connection to you is not based on conditions. Once you've seen this for yourself, you have to adjust how you invest in people. The ones who left when the skies darkened have shown you their limits. They may return when the sun comes out again, but you now know the truth. They were never really standing with you. They were standing with your circumstances. The next time the winds change, they will leave again. On the other hand, the ones who stayed, even when it was inconvenient, even when it cost them something, have proven their value beyond words. They deserve access to your growth, your wins, your gratitude. They have earned the right to stand in your light because they stood in your shadow without hesitation. The storm isn't pleasant, but it's essential. It forces you to stop confusing proximity with loyalty. Just because someone is close to you doesn't mean they're committed to you. The real ones are revealed when the ground shakes and the sky breaks open. And once you know who they are, you can build with certainty. So when the next storm comes, and it will, don't just focus on surviving it, watch closely. See who steps forward when things get hard. See who is willing to risk with you. See who remains steady when everything else is shaking. Those people are your circle. Everyone else is just passing through. When you finally make it through a season of struggle, it's tempting to believe the danger is over. You've healed, you've rebuilt, and you're stronger than before. But one of the biggest threats to your future isn't a new enemy. It's the old poison trying to find its way back into your life. These are the same people who stood by while you suffered, the ones who watched your battles from a safe distance, and now, seeing you rise, they suddenly want to be part of your story again. The danger here isn't always obvious because they often return with a smile. They might act as if nothing happened. They might use warm words, old memories, or even guilt to convince you that things are different now. But underneath it all, the truth hasn't changed. When it mattered most, they chose themselves over you. And no matter how well you're doing today, that same choice still lives in them. Old poison doesn't always come back looking dangerous. Sometimes it comes disguised as reconciliation, peace, or nostalgia. But poison in any form will still harm you if you take it in. Letting certain people back into your life isn't a show of strength. It's an open door to the same betrayal you've already experienced. The circumstances might be new, but their patterns are the same. People don't change just because you've grown. They don't suddenly develop loyalty just because your life looks better now. If they didn't value you at your lowest, they don't truly value you now. They might value what you've built, what you can give, or what being connected to you can do for them. But that's not the same as valuing you. And if you confuse the two, you'll end up surrounded by the same opportunists who vanished when you needed them most. Protecting your future means protecting your momentum. The progress you've made came from hard work, discipline, and lessons paid for in pain. You can't afford to invite people back in who drain that energy, question your worth,